25 years ago, Sarah Chun was just a young scientist studying plants and animals. She worked in a small lab on Earth, trying to find ways to save the dying planet. The air was thick with poison, the oceans were rising, plants were dying everywhere. Most people had given up hope. Then the sky split open. The ship was beautiful. It looked like a giant silver leaf floating down from the clouds. Sarah watched from her lab window as the alien vessel landed in the fields outside the city. Her hands shook as she put down her coffee cup. First contact with aliens was really happening. The being that stepped out of the ship was tall and graceful. Its skin was pale blue and seemed to glow softly in the sunlight. It had 4 arms and eyes that looked like liquid silver. When it spoke, its voice was like music. "I am Ambassador Zaltherin of the Veiltharan people," the alien said. "We come from the Galactic Confederation. We have been watching your world for some time." Sarah was part of the team that met with the ambassador. She had studied biology for years, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The alien's technology was amazing. It could make clean energy from nothing. It had medicine that could cure any disease. It promised to share all of this with humanity. "But what do you want from us?" asked President Martinez, who was in charge of Earth at that time. "Zia," Farron smiled, showing teeth that looked like pearls. "Your people have a gift," he said. "You can live in places where other beings would die. You can adapt to any world, any condition. The galaxy has many dangerous planets that need to be explored. Places too hot, too cold, too poisonous for other species." Sarah felt excited. Humanity could be useful to the galaxy. They could be partners with advanced alien civilizations. The Terran Accords were signed 3 months later. Sarah watched as President Martinez put his name on the glowing document. In return for technology that would save Earth, humans would help explore and colonize the most dangerous worlds in the galaxy. The changes came quickly. Alien machines cleaned the air and water. New medicines cured diseases that had killed millions. People stopped dying from cancer, and old age became a choice rather than a sentence. Earth became green again. Sarah was chosen to join the first group of human explorers. She was 30 years old and felt like she could live forever with the new alien medicine in her blood. The training was hard but exciting. They learned to pilot alien ships and use tools that seemed like magic. The first mission was to a planet called Kepler 186f. The world was covered in red sand and had air that would burn the lungs of most species. But humans could breathe it with just a simple mask. They could walk on its surface while other aliens needed heavy protective suits. Sarah led a team of 20 humans to set up the first base. They built homes and laboratories. They planted earth crops that grew well in the strange soil. Within a year, they had a thriving settlement. More missions followed. Humans went to worlds with crushing gravity that would flatten other species. They explored planets with deadly radiation that would cook alien flesh in minutes. They survived in places where the very air was poison. Each success made Sarah prouder. Humans were proving themselves valuable to the galaxy. They were not just primitive creatures from a backwater planet. They were partners in building a better universe. The alien technology kept flowing to Earth. Cities rose from the ground overnight. Humans learned to travel between stars. Disease became a thing of the past. Earth's population grew healthy and strong. Sarah rose through the ranks quickly. She became a leader of the Human Exploration Program. She trained new groups of colonists. She designed better ways to survive on hostile worlds. Her reports went directly to the Galactic Confederation. The aliens always seemed pleased with human progress. Zaltherin visited Earth often, bringing gifts and praise. He told stories of how human colonies were helping the galaxy expand into new regions. He spoke of a bright future where humans would have their own worlds and be full members of the Confederation. After 10 years, Sarah was promoted to head of all human space operations. She had visited 40 different worlds. She had seen humans build cities in places that should have been impossible to live. They thrived in acid rain and toxic snow. They laughed in gravity that should have crushed their bones. The other species in the Confederation began to notice. Representatives from different worlds came to visit human colonies. They marveled at what humans could do. Some seemed nervous about human abilities, but Zoltheron always calmed their fears. "Humans are our partners," he would say. "They help. You must all reach for the stars," Sarah believed him completely. She had seen the good that humans were doing. Every dangerous world they tamed meant more resources for everyone. Every impossible colony they built meant more room for the galaxy to grow. By the 15th year, there were human settlements on over 200 worlds. Some were mining colonies pulling rare metals from planets with poisonous atmospheres. Others were research stations studying phenomena that would kill other species to observe. All of them reported back to the Confederation with valuable information. Sarah was chosen to run for president of Earth. The planet had changed completely since first contact. It was now a paradise world that served as the home base for human expansion. She won the election easily. People trusted her because she had been there from the beginning. President Chin's first term was peaceful. Human colonies continued to grow and prosper. Earth became more beautiful each year. The partnership with the Confederation seemed perfect, but small things began to worry her. Sometimes colony reports were delayed or incomplete. Requests for certain equipment were denied without explanation. A few human settlements went silent for weeks at a time before resuming contact. Zoltheron always had reasonable explanations. Space was dangerous, equipment failed. Communications were difficult across such vast distances. These things were normal for any expanding civilization. Sarah wanted to believe him. The partnership had brought humanity so much good. Earth was saved. Humans were thriving across the galaxy. They had medicine, technology, and purpose that their ancestors could never have imagined. As her second term began, Sarah felt proud of what humanity had accomplished. They had proven themselves worthy partners to the galaxy's greatest civilizations. They had found their place among the stars. She had no idea that everything she believed was a lie. She had no idea that humanity was being used. She had no idea that the same pattern had played out before, with other species that no longer existed. She had no idea that the Confederation was already planning humanity's destruction, but she was about to learn the truth, and when she did, her response would shake the galaxy to its core. President Sarah Chun sat in her office looking at reports that made no sense. It was early morning on Earth, but she had been awake all night reading messages from human colonies across the galaxy. Something was wrong, but she could not figure out what. The first strange report came from Kepler 442b, the mining colony where humans had been digging for rare crystals for 8 years. The colony leader, Captain Rodriguez, had sent an urgent message 3 days ago. His team had found something deep in the mines. Ancient ruins that looked like they were built by intelligent beings. Within hours of the discovery, Confederation ships had arrived at the colony. Alien officials took control of the dig site and declared it a restricted research area. They told the humans to stay away and forget what they had seen. Captain Rodriguez was confused. Why would the Confederation hide old ruins? If another species had lived on the planet before, why was it a secret? His last message to Earth was short and worried. "Something is not right here, Madam President. These aliens are acting scared." The second report came from Proxima Centauri C, where Dr. Lisa Wang led a team of human scientists. They were studying the planet's strange weather patterns when they found evidence of cities buried under the toxic soil. The structures were huge and clearly built by a very advanced civilization. Dr. Wang tried to tell her Confederation supervisor about the discovery. The alien, a tall creature with green skin called Veltar, became angry. He ordered the humans to stop digging immediately. When Dr. Wang asked why, Veltar told her that some knowledge was too dangerous for young species like humans. "But we are partners," Dr. Wang had argued. "We should share information." Veltar's response was cold. "You are here to work, not to ask questions. Focus on your assigned tasks." Similar reports kept coming in from other colonies. Human teams were finding evidence of dead civilizations on many worlds. Each time they reported their discoveries, Confederation officials would arrive quickly to shut down the investigations. President Chun called Ambassador Zaltharin to her office. The tall alien arrived with his usual calm smile, his silver eyes gleaming as he greeted her. "Madam President, how may I serve you today?" he asked in his musical voice. Sarah showed him the reports. "My people are finding ruins and artifacts on many worlds. Why are these discoveries being hidden from us?" Zaltharin's expression did not change, but Sarah noticed his four hands moved slightly. It was a nervous gesture she had learned to recognize over the years. "Ancient conflicts," he said smoothly. "Long ago, there were wars between species that no longer exist. These sites contain dangerous knowledge that could threaten galactic peace. It is better that they remain buried." "But my scientists could help study them safely," Sarah insisted. "We have proven we can handle dangerous environments." "Some dangers are not physical, Madam President. Some knowledge corrupts the mind. Trust us to protect you from these ancient evils." Sarah wanted to believe him, but something in his tone bothered her. She had heard him use the same voice when talking to representatives of other species. It was the voice adults used when speaking to children they did not trust with the truth. 3 weeks later, another message arrived that changed everything. Dr. Marcus Rivera was an archaeologist working on a world called Titan's Edge. He had been studying rock formations when his team made a discovery that shocked them all. The message was broken and full of static, as if someone was trying to block the transmission. Dr. Rivera's face appeared on the screen, his eyes wide with fear. "President Chun, you need to know the truth," he said, looking over his shoulder nervously. "These worlds we have been sent to, they were not always poisonous. Someone made them this way. The soil, the air, the water, it has all been changed by weapons." The transmission flickered. Sarah could hear voices in the background, getting closer. "The ruins we found, they show what really happened. There was a species here called the Nethrim. They could survive in cold that would freeze other beings solid. The Confederation used them to explore ice worlds, just like they use us for dangerous planets." Dr. Rivera's voice became urgent. "But when the Nethrim started asking questions, started wanting equal treatment, the Confederation turned on them. They poisoned this world to kill every last one. The toxins were designed specifically to target Nethrim biology." Sarah felt her blood turn cold. "President Chun, I think we are next. They are studying us, learning how we survive. I found evidence that they are developing new weapons that target human DNA. You have to warn everyone. You have to tell them that we are not partners, we are..." The transmission cut off. Sarah tried to call back, but got only silence. She sent emergency messages to Titan's Edge, but received no response. It was as if the entire colony had simply vanished. President Chun called an emergency meeting with her top advisors. She showed them Dr. Rivera's message and all the other strange reports. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. "Are you saying the Confederation has been lying to us?" asked General Thompson, the head of Earth's military. "I am saying we need to find out the truth," Sarah replied. "And we need to do it carefully." Over the next few days, more disturbing information came to light. Colonies reported that their communications were being monitored more closely. Requests for certain types of equipment were being denied. Some human settlements were told they could no longer receive visitors from other colonies. The Confederation was isolating humanity, cutting them off from each other, just like they had done to the colonies where ruins were found. Sarah tried to contact Dr. Rivera again, but Titan's Edge remained silent. When she asked Zaltharin about it, he told her there had been an accident at the colony. A volcanic eruption had destroyed the settlement. All the humans had been evacuated to safety and relocated to other worlds, but no human colony reported receiving survivors from Titan's Edge. Sarah began to realize that her species was in terrible danger. The partnership they had trusted for 20 years was a lie. Humans were not valued members of the galactic community. They were tools being used by creatures who planned to throw them away when they were no longer needed. The evidence was everywhere once she started looking for it. The most dangerous assignments always went to humans. The most isolated colonies were always human settlements. And whenever humans discovered something the Confederation wanted to hide, those humans disappeared. President Chen made a decision that would change the course of human history. She would not let her species become another buried civilization. She would not let humanity become another set of ruins for future explorers to find, but first, she needed proof that could not be denied or explained away. She needed evidence so clear that even the other species in the Confederation would understand what was happening. She began planning a secret mission that would uncover the truth about humanity's real place in the galaxy. A mission that would either save her species or doom them all. As she worked late into the night, President Chung thought about Dr. Rivera's last words. The Confederation was developing weapons designed to kill humans. They were preparing for genocide. While pretending to be friends, Sarah looked out her window at the beautiful Earth that alien technology had saved. She wondered how many other worlds had looked this peaceful before the Confederation decided their people were no longer useful. The time for trust was over. The time for truth had begun. President Sarah Chun stood in the secret hangar beneath the White House, watching her best ship prepare for the most dangerous mission in human history. The vessel was called the Defiant, and it was built using both human engineering and stolen Confederation technology. Captain Elena Vasquez checked her equipment one final time. She was 45 years old and had spent half her life exploring deadly worlds for the Confederation. If anyone could sneak into forbidden space and survive, it was her. Are you sure about this, Madam President? Elena asked. If they catch us, it could mean war. Sarah nodded grimly. If we do nothing, it will mean extinction. We need to know what really happened to the species that came before us. The mission target was the Andromedae system, a region of space that had been declared off-limits to all species except the highest levels of Confederation leadership. According to official records, the system contained nothing but dead worlds and dangerous radiation. But Sarah suspected the truth was much worse. Elena's crew was small but skilled. There was Dr. James Park, a scientist who specialized in studying dead civilizations. Lieutenant Maria Santos was an expert pilot who could fly through asteroid fields blindfolded. Sergeant Tom Williams was a soldier who had survived battles on 12 different hostile worlds. The Defiant left Earth in secret, using a flight path that would avoid Confederation patrol routes. The journey to Andromedae would take 2 weeks, even with their fastest engines. During that time, they would be completely alone in the dark between stars. As they traveled, Elena studied everything they knew about the Forbidden System. The Confederation had declared it quarantined over 50 years ago, long before humans joined the galactic community. The official reason was an ancient plague that could spread to other worlds, but Dr. Park had different ideas. I have been studying the patterns, he told the crew during their first week of travel. Every species that the Confederation has recruited followed the same path. First contact, then partnership, then isolation, then silence. He showed them his research on a holographic display. The Zephyrians had been recruited 90 years ago because they could manipulate gravity fields. They had been used to build space stations in impossible locations. Then they had started asking for equal representation in the Confederation government. Within 10 years, the Zephyrians had vanished. The Confederation said they had destroyed themselves in a civil war. But there were no records of any fighting, no refugees, no survivors at all. The crystalline collective had been even more useful. They were silicon-based beings who could survive in the vacuum of space without protection. They had built mining operations around dangerous stars and in radioactive nebulae. They had also demanded better treatment after decades of service. They, too, had disappeared, supposedly destroyed by a computer virus that infected their artificial minds. Again, no survivors, no evidence, just empty worlds and official explanations. The pattern is always the same, Dr. Park explained. Recruitment, exploitation, elimination. And now it is happening to us. Lieutenant Santos was piloting the ship through a dangerous asteroid field when she made an important discovery. Captain, I am picking up metal debris ahead. It looks like the remains of old ships. Elena ordered the ship to stop so they could investigate. What they found made everyone on board feel sick with fear. The debris was from Zephyrian vessels, ships that should have been destroyed in their home system decades ago. Why are Zephyrian ship parts here? Sergeant Williams asked. Dr. Park's face was pale as he studied the wreckage. Because this is where they really died, not in a civil war at home, but here trying to escape. As the Defiant moved deeper into the Andromeda system, they found more evidence of the truth. Entire fleets of different species lay broken on dead worlds. Ships from civilizations that the Confederation claimed had destroyed themselves were scattered across multiple planets. The first world they landed on had once been beautiful. They could see the remains of great cities built by the Crystalline Collective, but something terrible had happened here. The cities were not just abandoned, they were melted. Every structure had been turned to glass by incredible heat. This was not a computer virus, Dr. Park said as he studied the ruins. This was a weapon, something that created temperatures hot enough to melt living crystal. They found worse things as they explored. In one building, they discovered the remains of crystalline beings who had tried to hide in underground shelters. The weapon that killed them had found them even there, turning their bodies into twisted glass. Sculptures frozen in their final moments of terror. The second world told the story of the Zephyrians. These beings could control gravity, making them incredibly difficult to kill with normal weapons. But the Confederation had found a way. The planet's gravity had been turned against its own people. Elena's team found evidence that the world's gravity had been suddenly increased to crushing levels. Buildings had collapsed under their own weight. The Zephyrians, despite their powers, had been flattened along with everything else on the planet. They used their own abilities to kill them, Dr. Park whispered in horror. The Confederation studied how Zephyrian gravity control worked, then turned it into a weapon. On the third world, they made the discovery that would haunt Elena's dreams forever. It was a massive facility built into the planet's crust. Inside, they found laboratories and testing chambers. And in those chambers, they found evidence of experiments on living beings from dozens of different species. The Confederation had not just killed these civilizations. They had studied them while they died. They had learned how each species lived, how they thought, how they could be controlled and ultimately destroyed. In one laboratory, Elena found files that made her blood freeze. The computers contained detailed biological information about humans. Height, weight, blood chemistry, genetic patterns, everything about human biology was recorded in precise detail. They have been studying us since the beginning, she reported. To Dr. Park, every medical exam they gave us, every health check, every biological sample they requested, they were not helping us. They were learning how to kill us. The worst discovery came in the deepest part of the facility. In a vault protected by multiple security systems, they found the Confederation's real records. Documents that told the true story of galactic history. According to these files, the Confederation was not a partnership of equal species. It was an empire ruled by 5 ancient races who saw all other life as either useful or dangerous. Useful species were recruited and exploited until they became inconvenient. Dangerous species were eliminated immediately. Humans had been classified as useful because of their adaptability and survival instincts. But recently the files showed that human classification had changed. Several reports noted that humans were becoming too independent, too curious, too willing to ask difficult questions. The final file made Elena's hands shake as she read it. It was a detailed plan for human extinction, scheduled to begin within the next 2 years. The weapon was already being developed. Based on 20 years of studying human biology. It was designed to target human DNA specifically, spreading like a disease that would kill only humans while leaving other species completely unharmed. The plan was to release it simultaneously on all human colonies, wiping out the entire species in a matter of weeks. Dr. Park found evidence that the weapon was being tested on isolated human settlements, the colonies that had gone silent over the past year had not been destroyed by accidents. They had been used as testing grounds for humanity's extinction. "We have to warn everyone," Elena said as they prepared to leave the Andromeda system. "We have to tell them what is coming." But as they loaded the evidence onto their ship, Elena realized that simply warning people would not be enough. The Confederation was too powerful, too well prepared. They had eliminated dozens of species without anyone else knowing the truth. Humanity needed more than a warning. They needed a plan to fight back. As the Defiant headed home toward Earth, Elena began thinking about how to turn humanity's greatest strength into a weapon that could shake the galaxy. The Confederation thought they understood humans, but they had made one crucial mistake. They had never faced a species that refused to die quietly. President Sarah Chun stood before the massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber, her heart beating fast but her face calm. In her hands, she carried a small device that contained the evidence Captain Vasquez had brought back from the Andromeda system. Evidence that would either save humanity or start a war that would destroy them. The chamber was enormous, built to hold representatives from dozens of different species. The ceiling rose high above like a crystal dome, showing the stars beyond. Floating platforms held delegates from across the galaxy, each species sitting in areas designed for their particular needs. Sarah walked to the center, platform reserved for new business. Around her, alien beings watched with curious eyes. Most of them had no idea what she was about to reveal. They thought this was just another routine meeting about colonial expansion. The Veiltharan representatives sat in the highest section of the chamber. Ambassador Zaltherin was there, along with High Chancellor Morthic and 3 other high-ranking officials. Their silver eyes watched Sarah with what looked like amusement. Near them sat the other 4 ruling species of the Confederation. The Corvin with their stone-like skin and glowing red eyes. The Solari, who looked like tall plants with moving branches for arms. The Nethys, whose bodies seemed to be made of living water. And the ancient Vorthak, covered in scales that changed color with their emotions. These 5 species controlled everything in the galaxy. They made all the important decisions. They decided which worlds could be colonized and which species could join their confederation. And according to the evidence Sarah carried, they decided which species would live and which would die. The lower platforms held representatives from younger species. The Moltok, who had joined the Confederation 30 years ago. The Rillan, who were insect-like beings that had been members for 50 years. The Genth, a peaceful species that had been part of the galaxy community for over a century. All of these species believed they were equal partners in a great galactic civilization. None of them knew they were being watched and judged by their rulers, waiting to see if they would become useful or dangerous. Sarah activated the chamber's presentation system. A holographic display appeared above her head, visible to everyone in the room. "Honored delegates," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's sound system. "I come before you today to speak about humanity's service to our galactic community." The first images showed human colonies across the galaxy. Happy families building homes on worlds that would kill other species. Human miners working in conditions that would melt alien flesh. Human scientists studying phenomena that would drive other minds insane. "For 25 years, my people have served the Confederation faithfully," Sarah continued. "We have explored over 300 worlds deemed too dangerous for other species. We have established colonies in places where no other life could survive. We have asked for nothing in return except a chance to be your partners." Some of the alien delegates nodded approvingly. The human contribution to galactic expansion was well known and respected by most species. Sarah's presentation continued with statistics and reports. Human mining operations that had provided rare metals for Confederation technology. Human research stations that had made important scientific discoveries. Human settlements that had turned deadly worlds into valuable assets. "We have lost many people in this service," Sarah said, her voice growing heavier. "Thousands of humans have died exploring your dangerous worlds. They gave their lives believing they were helping to build a better galaxy for all species." The chamber was quiet. Now, Even species that sometimes competed with humans showed respect for their sacrifices, but then Sarah's presentation changed. The images shifted to show the archaeological discoveries that human teams had made. Ancient ruins on worlds that were supposed to be empty. Evidence of civilizations that had lived and died long before official records claimed. Over the past 2 years, my people have made disturbing discoveries, Sarah said. We have found proof that many worlds in our galaxy were not always poisonous and deadly. They were made that way. Murmurs started among the delegates. Some species began talking to each other in worried voices. This was not what they had expected to hear at a routine meeting. Sarah showed them images of the ruins Dr. Rivera had found on Titan's Edge before his colony disappeared. She displayed the evidence of artificial toxins that had been used to poison entire worlds. She revealed the pattern of dead civilizations that human archaeologists had discovered. Every world we have been sent to colonize shows signs of previous intelligent life, Sarah declared. Civilizations that were destroyed not by natural disasters or civil wars, but by deliberate extermination. The murmurs grew louder. Some delegates stood up from their seats, demanding to know what this meant. Others looked confused and frightened. High Chancellor Morthic rose from his platform. His tall form cast a shadow over the chamber as his voice boomed through the speakers. President Chun, these are very serious accusations, he said in a tone that sounded both concerned and threatening. Ancient history can be difficult to interpret correctly. Perhaps you have misunderstood what your people found. Sarah looked directly at him, her eyes steady and unafraid. Then perhaps you can help me understand the truth about the Andromeda system. The reaction was immediate. All 5 ruling species suddenly became very still. Their body language changed completely. The Corvin's red eyes blazed brighter. The Solari's branch arms stopped moving. The Nethys' water body began to churn. The Vorthax scales shifted to dark, angry colors. The other delegates noticed the change. Conversation stopped as everyone waited to see what would happen next. Sarah activated the next part of her presentation. Images from the Andromeda system filled the holographic display. The melted cities of the crystalline collective. The crushed ruins of the Zephyrian worlds. The horrific laboratories where experiments had been conducted on living beings. This is what I found when I sent a team to investigate the Forbidden System, Sarah announced. Not empty worlds destroyed by ancient plagues, but the graveyards of entire civilizations. Species that were recruited by the Confederation, used for their abilities, and then systematically murdered when they became inconvenient. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates from dozens of species began shouting questions and demands. Some called for explanations. Others demanded to know if the accusations were true. A few began moving toward the exits, suddenly afraid for their own safety, but the ruling species remained silent. Their eyes fixed on Sarah with expressions that had become cold and dangerous. Sarah raised her voice above the noise. I have documentation proving that the Confederation leadership has been planning and executing genocide for over a century. And I have evidence that humanity is next on their list for extinction. She displayed the files that Captain Vasquez had found. The biological studies of human DNA, the plans for a weapon designed specifically to kill every human in the galaxy. The testing sites where isolated human colonies had been used as laboratories for mass murder. They have been studying us since the day we joined their confederation, Sarah declared. Every medical exam, every health check, every sample they took from us was part of their research into how to kill us all. High Chancellor Morthic stepped forward, his face twisted with anger that was no longer hidden. Enough! He shouted. You speak of things you do not understand, human. There are forces in this galaxy that require careful management. Some species must make sacrifices for the greater good of all. Sacrifices? Sarah's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. You call genocide a sacrifice? You call the murder of entire civilizations management? We call it survival, Morthic replied coldly. The galaxy is a dangerous place. Species that become too powerful, too independent, too willing to challenge the natural order, must be controlled. The other delegates listened in growing horror. As the truth became clear, the Confederation was not a partnership. It was an empire ruled by predators, who saw all other life as either tools or threats. Sarah felt the weight of every human life resting on her shoulders. This was the moment that would determine whether her species lived or died. The moment when she would either save humanity or doom them to join the countless civilizations buried in the Andromedae. System. She took a deep breath and prepared to deliver the words that would change the galaxy forever. High Chancellor Morthic continued speaking, his voice growing more arrogant with each word. Around the chamber, delegates from younger species listened in growing shock as the truth about their galaxy became clear. You must understand, President Chun, Morthic said with a cold smile. The Confederation has maintained peace for over 1,000 years. We have prevented wars, guided technological development, and ensured that dangerous species do not threaten galactic stability. He gestured toward the other ruling species. We 5 races have the wisdom and experience necessary to make difficult decisions. When we discovered humanity's remarkable survival abilities, we knew you could serve a useful purpose. You have exceeded our expectations. Sarah felt rage building in her chest, but she kept her voice steady. Useful purpose? You sent us to worlds. You had poisoned. You made us clean up your murders. We gave you opportunities that no other species could have survived, Morthic replied. You should be grateful. Your people have thrived under our guidance. Earth has become a paradise world. The Corvan representative, Chancellor Thekmer, stood up on his platform. His stone-like body gleamed under the chamber's lights as he spoke. In a voice like grinding rocks. The human species has been studied extensively, he announced. Your biological adaptability is impressive, but your psychological development is concerning. You ask too many questions. You demand explanations that younger species do not need. The Solari Chancellor, whose plant-like form swayed as she spoke, added her opinion. Recent reports indicate growing human independence. Your colonies communicate with each other without authorization. Your scientists investigate matters outside their assigned research areas. This behavior suggests dangerous thinking. Sarah realized they were not even trying to hide their intentions anymore. They were explaining why humanity needed to be eliminated, as if she should understand and accept their reasoning. The weapon designed for your species is nearly complete, continued the Nethys Chancellor, whose water body rippled with each word. It has been tested successfully on isolated human populations. The results exceeded expectations. This was too much. Sarah thought about Dr. Rivera and all the other humans who had died in those tests. She thought about the colonies that had vanished, the families that had been murdered to perfect a tool for genocide. Morthic raised his hand for silence. However, we are not unreasonable beings. Humanity has served us well. If you accept the situation and cooperate with the transition, we can ensure that your species' end is quick and painless. You will be remembered as valuable contributors to galactic civilization. Transition? Sarah asked, her voice dangerously quiet. The gradual elimination of your species, Morthic explained calmly. It will begin with the outer colonies and work inward toward Earth. The process should take approximately 18 months. Much faster than the natural disasters and civil wars we arrange for other species. He actually seemed proud of their efficiency. Your people will not suffer unnecessarily, added the Vorthic Chancellor, whose scales had turned a pleased purple color. The weapon causes unconsciousness before death. Most humans will simply fall asleep and never wake up. Sarah listened to them describe the murder of her entire species as if they were discussing a construction project. They talked about killing billions of people with the same tone they might use to order lunch. The other delegates in the chamber were completely silent now. Some looked terrified. Others seemed unable to believe what they were hearing. Many were probably wondering if their own species would be next. Morthic continued his explanation, his voice filled with condescending patience. This is the natural order of things, President Chun. Strong species guide and protect weaker ones. When weaker species become troublesome, they must be managed. It is for the greater good of the galaxy. You speak of management and natural order, Sarah said slowly. You talk about the greater good and galactic stability. But what you really mean is murder. We mean survival, Morthic replied firmly. The survival of civilization itself. Chaos must be prevented. Dangerous ideas must be contained. Problematic species must be eliminated before they can threaten the peace we have built. He leaned forward on his platform, his silver eyes gleaming with absolute certainty. Your species has served its purpose, President Chun. You have helped U.S. explore and claim hundreds of worlds that would otherwise remain useless. Now it is time for you to step aside so that more suitable species can inherit what you have built. More suitable? Sarah's voice was getting louder. You mean more obedient, more willing to accept slavery? We prefer the term guidance, said the Solari Chancellor. Young species need direction. They need to understand their place in the larger order of things. Rebellion leads to chaos. Chaos leads to war. War leads to suffering. So you prevent suffering by committing genocide, Sarah said. We prevent greater suffering by making necessary sacrifices, Morthic corrected. The death of one species is a small price to pay for the peace of thousands of worlds. He stood up to his full height, towering over the chamber. You should feel honored, President Chun. Humanity will be remembered as heroes who gave their lives for galactic stability. Your sacrifice will ensure peace for generations to come. That was the moment when something inside Sarah Chun finally snapped. 20-5 years of lies. 25 years of being used and manipulated. 25 years of watching her people die for creatures who saw them as nothing more than disposable. Tools. Her fist came down on the speaker's podium with a sound like thunder. The impact was so hard that cracks appeared in the metal surface. The sound echoed through the chamber like a gunshot, causing several delegates to jump in their seats. You betrayed U.S. First, Sarah roared, her voice filled with a fury that seemed to shake the very walls of the chamber. The explosion of rage was so sudden and powerful that even the ruling species took a step back. They had expected acceptance, maybe some pleading, perhaps even gratitude for their mercy. They had not expected this. You speak of honor while you plot genocide, Sarah continued, her voice carrying to every corner of the massive chamber. You preach about partnership while you poison worlds. You talk about sacrifice while you murder children. Her eyes blazed with an anger that seemed to burn through the air itself. Every human who had ever died in service to the Confederation, every colony that had vanished, every family that had been destroyed in their weapons tests, all of that pain and loss was concentrated in her voice. Every human who died in your service died because of your lies, she shouted. Every world we explored for you was a graveyard you created. Every dangerous mission you sent us on was cleaning up your murders. The chamber had become completely silent except for Sarah's voice. Even the ruling species seemed stunned by the raw power of her fury. You wanted to use humanity's greatest strength, Sarah continued, her voice dropping to a deadly whisper that somehow carried to every seat in the chamber. Our refusal to die quietly, our ability to survive where others cannot. Our determination to keep fighting no matter what the odds. She looked directly at Morthic, her eyes promising violence. Congratulations. You are about to learn what that really means. Sarah activated a device on her belt. Immediately, alarms began blaring throughout the Confederation capital. Emergency lights flashed as warning signals echoed through the corridors. What is the meaning of this? Morthic demanded. Sarah smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. It was not a pleasant smile. Those alarms are announcing the birth of the Terran Commonwealth, she said, and the beginning of the end for your empire of murderers. Through the chamber's transparent dome, the first explosions began lighting up the sky. Human ships, hidden until this moment, emerged from seemingly empty space around every major Confederation world. Ships crewed by humans who had spent their entire lives learning to survive in impossible conditions, ships that could operate in radiation that would kill other crews. Ships that could hide in gravity wells that would crush other vessels. Ships crewed by a species that had been taught by the galaxy's greatest predators how to fight and win in conditions that would destroy their enemies. The same adaptability. That made us valuable has made us impossible to completely control, Sarah announced to the stunned chamber. While you plotted our extinction, we were preparing for war. The ruling species finally understood their mistake. They had created the perfect enemy, a species that could survive anywhere, fight under any conditions, and refuse to surrender no matter how hopeless the situation seemed. You wanted to study humanity's refusal to die quietly, Sarah said as more explosions lit up the sky. Now you get to experience it firsthand. The galaxy would never be the same.